Welcome to Ralph's Fly Box. Today we're going to tie the Tully Caddis emerger. Got its name from the stream I first tied it for. The Tully Caddis emerger is a general search pattern, crosses over. It doesn't identify a specific hatch. It's basically an all-purpose emerger. I fish it when the hatches aren't coming off. It's very productive on that particular water, the Tulpahawken. And we'll go over how we tie it. I tie it on a size 14 Caddis emerger hook. I go down to 16. I've gone up to 12. 14 is pretty standard. I manipulate this hook a little bit in the vise. I start off by canning my hook and burying the tip to begin with. And I'll start my thread. I'm using 8/0 black uni thread. I'm going to bring this thread pretty far around into the bend of the hook. And then I'm going to bring my thread back forward here to about the point of the thorax. Next I'm going to tie in my wire. I'm tying gold wire. And I'm going to bring that on the side of the hook back to that same point of the thread. Then I'm going to take 4 or 5, however many peels off nicely for me, yellow dyed pheasant tail fibers. Even the tips. I'm going to line these tips up to where they're about gap length past. A fairly short tail, only about gap length past the body of the fly. And we'll bring that thread back again to the same point, about midway into the bend of the hook. We're going to bring the butt ends of those fibers back as well, fold them back, and wrap over them. At this point, we're going to level the hook again in the vise. Next material is going to be squirrel, natural gray squirrel. Gray squirrel is one of the few dubbing that I do use. I do use wax for, and we're going to dub a fairly sparse noodle. Don't want too much. We're mainly just looking for the spiky attributes of the squirrel. We're not looking to really build up an abdomen. Alright, we're going to bring our thread back. Point of tie-in. And we're going to bring that noodle forward. Not really too concerned at how it forms. We just want the spikiness. And just a little bit more on here. And I'll trim, if there's any really crazy ones to start with, I'll trim them off a little bit. But don't prune it too much. And at this point we're going to pull the butts forward, keeping them on top of the body. going to palmer our wire forward, evenly spaced, keeping the fibers, the pheasant tail fibers on top. This is fine gold wire. I don't go large. Save on as much weight as I can. It is an emerger pattern. I want the abdomen to sink, but I don't want to overweight the fly. And then lift both materials and trim them off together. Bind them down. Okay, the next material we're going to use is black squirrel. Again, we'll apply a little bit of wax. Sometimes squirrel gets little clumps, and instead of picking them out, I'll just toss them. We're going to start, this is a 3-part thorax. I'm going to start with the rear portion. The rear portion we're going to build up a little bit, not too extensive. And then next we're going to tie in our winging. I use natural CDC puffs, and I use 2 of them. I think the puffs provide the best color. For some reason, when you're looking for natural CDC, the natural done, it always seems to be the puffs that have the best color, or the most natural color, consistent color, versus the dyed. Usually when they're larger, they're dyed. You're going to put 2 together. I trim the tips to separate the stem, and you're going to even them up as much as you can. You're going to tie in, at first you're going to tie in the tips towards the rear about half the shank length in length at the midpoint of the thorax. At this point, once you get it secured, throw a couple extra wraps in there. You're going to dub another slight noodle with black. Only a short piece. And you're going to dub back into the tips, the first portion, just a little bit. Then you're going to bring your butt ends of your CDC back, sweep them back as well. Give a few wraps to keep them in place. They're not going to really listen to you. And you're going to dub another small section of noodle. Once more with the black. And you're going to bring that up, and you're going to use that to force those butts back over the top of the first, over the tips. You're going to build back in. The minute you get it back in, just bring that black thread back forward. And throw a whip finish in. What that does is it gives you a little bit heavier wing, and it gives you a little bit more control. It gives you a little bit more control. It gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it gives you a little bit more control. And it but it gives you the color usually separates a little bit, and it gives you a two-stage wing, if that's an adequate description. Then you're going to sweep them all together at a 45-degree angle from the head towards the bend of the hook. You're going to trim them off. And you see what that does is it gives you a two-tone wing. It's a heavier wing and two-toned. I think that contrast, the reason this fly does so well is that two-tone wing contrasts with the black thorax. And I would say that probably accounts for the majority of the performance of this fly on the water. And it's got a short tail. But there it is. The Tully Caddis emerger. It's been in my box for a number of years. A very effective pattern, and one I think will add to your box as well. Thank you very much. See you in the water.